This is the Lunch and Learn panel, and I will introduce myself one last time. My name is Mariam, and I'm a sophomore in the college at Georgetown studying government. And I'm very excited to introduce our Lunch and Learn panel moderated by Sabrina Siddiqui. And this panel will function a little differently compared to the rest of them. We really want to focus on audience engagement in this panel, so the audience will get the chance to line up at the 2 mics that we have over there and at the end of the room. But please make sure that everyone does so in a respectful and orderly manner, because we want this to be as quick and sharp as possible, but still be as interesting for everyone. And without further ado, I will pass it on to Sabrina to moderate this panel.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Mariam, for the very kind introduction. And I do want to reiterate that this panel is going to be a little bit different, okay? So there's been a wonderful program so far. We have had, very thoughtful, academic, intellectual discussions that have been extremely informative. This will also be informative, but a little bit different in terms of vibes, okay? We want this to be engaging. We want to make you part of it. I'm going to start by introducing and asking our esteemed panelists a few quick questions about topical issues. And then we really want you to think about your best and even maybe confrontational questions for our guests here today, and make your questions good. We'll get to that part later. We also want to make this punchy. We want to keep it going. So I will say that to our lovely panelists over here, if we feel like you're going on too long, I reserve the right to play you off. I will play you off with background music as they do at the Oscars. So we're going to try and keep your answers on the tighter side so that we can get through as much as we can. I am, again, Sabrina Siddiqui, national politics reporter for the Wall Street Journal. This is Wajahat Khan, Emmy-nominated journalist, best-selling author, but most importantly, CEO of Pak Futures Foundation, without which we would not be here doing this today. Akbar Shahid Ahmed, senior diplomatic correspondent for HuffPost, who covers a range of foreign policy issues. He also has written a book on the Biden administration's handling of Israel's war in Gaza called Crossing the Red Line. Comes out this fall. Encourage you to stay tuned for that. And Wajahat Ali, columnist, public speaker, author of the memoir Go Back to Where You Came From and other helpful recommendations on how to become American. Resident uncle. There are 2 Wajahats, so I could call you Wajahat uncle and you Wajahat bhai. I could call you Wajahat A, Wajahat K. We'll figure it all out. Guys, I want to just, sharp question to kick off this panel. I'm sure a lot of people in the audience think it's Imran Khan, but what do you think is the defining issue of this time? Let's go with you first.
With me?
In one sentence, what is the defining issue of this time?
This time for Pakistan or this time for the world? I need a...
Both, all of it.
I think for Pakistan, I know that the greatest issue is polarization. We're polarized and stratified across society. There's haves and have-nots across the board. There's the English-Urdu divide. There's obviously the usual ethnic divides. There are, of course, clearly there's a gender divide which isn't going anywhere, despite some women in power and important positions. But I think critically, crucially, and currently, the greatest divide, which is our biggest divide, is the civil-military divide. I would go on with other ones, the sectarian divide, the provincial divide, the liberal versus not so liberal divide. You know those. But I think at this point, the greatest divide is the civil-military divide, and it's very difficult to bridge that, and increasingly difficult to bridge that.
Thank you. That was a little more than one sentence, but I'm going to ask our next 2 to try, and very succinctly. And the reason I want to ask each of you the defining issue of this time is because I want you guys to start thinking about the questions, the real hard-hitting questions you want to ask these guys based on their expertise. Akbar, the defining issue of our time in one sentence.
Looking at global affairs, I think the defining issue of our era is the hyper-concentration of wealth and power that globally is creating issues from Zoran Mamdani, climate change, migration, AI. Every single issue affecting our future is affected by the few versus the many.
Nice.
Wajahat A, Uncle G.
Uncle Wajahat here. Assalamu alaikum. A pleasure being at Georgetown's Pakistan Public Policy Conclave, GP3C. Say it 3 times fast. And I'm very honored to be back at Georgetown, a university that rejected me as an undergrad and also rejected me in law school and now is paying me nothing to address this august Pakistani audience. So thank you. Karma is real, karma is brown, karma is very petty. My one sentence Akbar took is the greatest challenge, or what was the question? The greatest challenge?
The most defining issue
The
of our
most
time.
defining issue is the haves versus the have-nots, the 99% versus the 1%, and whether or not the 99% can mobilize their energy, their talents, their will to imagine a better future where the haramzadas stop stealing all of our resources, and inshallah we can create an equitable society where all of us can rise and fulfill our dreams.
Okay, so that was just to get us thinking, okay? Now, we are obviously sitting here almost a year now into the Trump administration. You all have various areas of expertise in both domestic and foreign policy. I want to ask you guys, what is behind Pakistan's charm offensive toward President Trump, and how would you rate it? What are the risks? What are the rewards? I'm going to go with Akbar, you first.
Sure. I think Pakistan's charm offensive is about Pakistan's sense of itself, and in two factors. There's a very real concern Pakistan has with its neighbors, with Afghanistan, with India, with its security. But there's also, and I say this as someone who grew up in Pakistan, goes back all the time, cares about it deeply, we don't matter that much. We don't need to tell ourselves we have to be at the center of global affairs. And I think Pakistan, to its detriment, has focused on its relationship with the US rather than thinking about its own issues, its own development, its own social issues. And I do see a lot of risks in this Trump embrace. Of course, Trump has turned around and said that General Asim Munir is his favorite field marshal. Let's not forget that in the first Trump presidency, Egyptian President Sisi was his favorite general, right? That can change. It can all change with Donald Trump. Associating yourself so closely with one administration, one movement, when Democrats especially are rising up, looking for the post-Trump era, and are very concerned about democratic decline in Pakistan, it's not the wisest policy from my viewpoint.
Wajahat A, you spend a lot of your time.
You could just call me Uncle Wajahat.
Uncle,
that's
I
fine.
just might embrace, yeah, Uncle, please bataye. No, so you spend a lot of your time focusing on the rise of MAGA, the threat of fascism. Smart, ill-advised, Pakistan's charm offensive toward President Trump.
On the positive side, they know how to play Donald Trump and his fickle ego. It's all transactional. So they did something very smart. They gave him compliments, and they realized that those compliments translate into policy benefits. The negative side we can see is India publicly didn't support Donald Trump for when he was making the case for the Nobel Peace Prize. So he's so fickle, so weak, infatuated with his own ego that he decided to punish India with tariff policies. So from that angle, Pakistan is playing it somewhat smart, looking at the ego of the current president, who's the most powerful person on earth, and saying, "Tika, we'll just give you some lift and we'll get a lot of stuff in return." The negative aspect that Akbar said, he's so transactional, he's so fickle, is that he will turn on you on a dime. And the second part, going back to your first question, with income inequality, with the rich getting richer, with authoritarianism rising, is there's a famous saying, right? America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. If America no longer cares about the rule of law, about democracy and human rights, and Pakistan is seeing Donald Trump, a wannabe authoritarian, as a model, what does that do to democracy and the movement for democracy in Pakistan? And I think that's something that you should be very, very careful about. How closely do you want to be wedded to the number one haramzada of the universe?
What would you like to add, Wajahat K?
It's going to be like this for the next hour, by the way. So
I don't know if that was like a mic drop type moment, but what would you like to add?
Real quickly, just to build up. So I think I'm going to disagree a little about Pakistan's strategy here. I think it doesn't really rely, as Akbar said, on Pakistan's new sense of itself. I think it's very top-heavy, this charm offensive. It's also very sycophantic and filled with sweet deals, as Malia Lodi said this morning. It's premised around the evil genius of the current army chief, who's maybe because of his training or his experience as the chief of military intelligence, former, and the chief of the ISI, former, the first one in Pakistan's long checkered history of military generals to have served that purpose. I think what he's done is he's read the room, he's read the Trump court, and he's read him well. And versus India, for example, which I disagree with Wajahat on, that India, fine, is a strategic partner, but India was too clunky, too chunky, too slow to navigate around Trump Court 2.0. And maybe because Asim Munir's lobbyists, Asim Munir's ingress, Asim Munir's, like I said, evil genius or whatever it is, the very fact that just the last couple of weeks have been dominated by the history of the bromance between Trump and Munir goes on to underscore two things. One, this is not based on states, it's based on an arrangement which is personal, which doesn't say much about Pakistan in the long run, and the Indians are going to be at a comparative advantage forever, because for the Indians, for us as Pakistanis to thumb our nose at the Indians is a little premature, but I think in the long run, this is all going to depend on the whimsy of Trump, as Wajahat said, and on the perpetuity of Asim Munir. Is this going to percolate down? You can already see that for now, this is good. Pakistan's the flavor of the month. But flavors change fast in Washington, especially Trump's Washington. So I don't think this charm offensive has legs.
You brought up India. You actually teed up my next question. It's almost as if I may have told you a little bit ahead of time what we might be talking about. I hear a lot in my years, more than a decade now, covering national politics from members of our Pakistani diaspora community. And I do want to switch gears a little bit to, what matters here at home. I hear a lot of comparisons to the Indian diaspora. The way that Indian Americans and just, NRIs have risen, in terms of positions of power across virtually every industry. CEOs of major tech companies, elected officials in Congress, serving as cabinet officials, obviously in business, very visible, very present. And a lot of what I hear from the Pakistani diaspora is, why not us? Why not us? What should the Pakistani diaspora community be doing here at home to increase our relevance in the United States and in the upper chambers of power? Wajahat, K.
Oh.
And then Wajahat, A.
That's a tough one. Well, firstly, as divided as the community here is and the diaspora here is, and the biggest example of that is the controversy around this very event, right? A couple of vloggers, for lack of a better word, I don't know what else to call them, have made a case of this being ISI-sponsored conference. Firstly, if the ISI is here, welcome. Please raise your hand. There's a lot of us who want to get to know you.
Identify yourself. Stand
Please
up.
identify
Stand
yourself.
up if
You
you're
with
a
the
member
dark
of the
suit.
IS.
Maybe it's you with the green tie. Is it you? I'm kidding. So firstly, I haven't met an ISI agent since my days in Waziristan. I really want to meet you. Come say hi. Secondly, and critically, the diaspora here, like any other diaspora, is not, it's heterogeneous, it's diverse, as it should be. But there are, for example, changes happening, for example, this one, which goes against the grain. This is supposed to be, as Wajahat was noting over lunch, there's a cross-generational gap that's been filled here. Most of our rooms are filled with Buddhas, which are Wajahat and my age or above, Xers and boomers, right? Open, love open. Adil Hussain is here. He's a friend of mine. He's in charge of the open DC thing. As you can tell, he's as Buddha as I am, right? Look at that lovely salt and pepper beard. Park Pack, again, Dr. Humera is here somewhere. They're as Buddha as well, not, I'm just kidding. Humera, you're going to be ever young. Apna is filled with dinosaurs, even though Dr. Humera Kamar is here, but I mean that with the utmost respect. I'm not being ageist. But these are professional organizations built around doctors or finance bros, or that's it. Aam log and especially those people behind you, the young organizers, the students, have been missing in the room. There's around 200,000 high school and college-age Pakistanis in this country. But most events which are supposed to get the diaspora together underrepresent them. For example, the whole purpose of this conversation was to break that gap. We're trying, but to compare ourselves to the Indians, there's a quantitative difference, there's a qualitative difference, there's a difference of religiosity, amalgamation, socialization. And I think Pakistanis are a generation, maybe a generation and a half behind. The overall religiosity factor, the socialization factor, other factors kick in. But I'm not going to critique the Pakistani diaspora versus the Indian diaspora beyond the fact that they have a better sense of national self-identity. We don't. They have less masjids or less mandirs than we do have masjids. There are more gaps here because of the divides earlier asked, जो मैंने आपको कहा था, polarization जो है society की. We're not unified, we don't have strong leadership, and we have too many gaps.
Akbar, I actually should say, as a member of the diaspora, you have found your way to probably the highest levels of relevance since you actually appeared in the Epstein files. Don't worry. Jeffrey Epstein had emailed Steve Bannon, former senior advisor to President Trump, an article that was actually penned by our very own Akbar Shahid Ahmed. And Jeffrey Epstein said, Akbar Shahid Ahmed, that can't be a real name. Sounds like an SNL skit. To which Steve Bannon responded, very gay Pakistani. So that is, I mean, because we own and embrace this, but that was more just, I can't believe I didn't mention that because it is my favorite factoid of this weekend. But as someone who has actually, really, like, honestly, done fantastic work, and you're from Pakistan, you're from Karachi, you're very connected to people at home, you're very connected to people here. What do you think the diaspora should be focused on? And I know there is a quantitative difference between Pakistani and Indian diaspora here in the United States, but it's such a grievance I hear from our community. So what do you think is the work that needs to be done?
Well, as your resident SNL skit, I would say, look, I think I look at people like Adil Mangi, someone similar to me, grew up in Karachi, came to this country with aspirations to contribute, be part of society. There was not a wellspring of Pakistani support for Adil Mangi's confirmation. That was a winnable battle to get this.
Can you remind people who he was?
Who was a judge nominated by Biden to the court, really questioned over extremely spurious anti-Semitism allegations. He was a qualified
Can I
judge.
just say, he would have been the first Muslim and Pakistani American federal judge on the Third Circuit.
Yeah.
And he should have been.
Would have been.
And he should have been, and it was a winnable battle. There were Democratic senators standing in his way, not Republicans. Many Democrats flipped against the Biden administration, had a wellspring, I think, of Pakistanis, of Muslim Americans rallied around this Pakistani. That would have been a different matter. For me, I wonder so often, again, we should care about what's happening. My mother lives in Karachi. I care a lot about what happens in Karachi's sewage system, right? That really matters. But we also have to care about what's happening here. And we have to focus our attention and our resources not just on those fights. I think sometimes it can be emotional for us. Look, I was listening to Dil Hare Pukare in the shower right before I came here. I also want to be in 1990s Karachi, but we are in 2020s Washington, D.C. And the wheels of power are turning. If we are not helping to turn them, we are irrelevant and we will get steamrolled. So we need to show up.
Wajad, can you literally have your thinking cap on, but also your thinking face?
Just to perpetuate Akbar's point about Adil Mangi. Firstly, he's a senior of ours in the same school, but that's not the point. The point is that there's people in this room, and I can put good money on it, who haven't heard of the man. And to answer your question, if Adil Mangi was an Indian, and the first Indian to have been nominated for the Third Federal Circuit Court, this would have been a very different country and a very different conversation. People in this country, and that includes community leaders, local media, social media, need to start owning themselves and their identity. There is some sort of shame in being Muslim. There is some sort of shame in being brown. There's some sort of shame in being gay. There's some sort of shame in being awesome and out there. And I think that has to go. You really have to adapt to what other communities have done. अगर वो Indian होता, آج probably یہاں الیکٹ ہوتا ہے نہیں ہوتا مجھے نہیں پتا, نامنیٹ ہوتا, بٹ دس آئی کین سے کہ ہر ایک کو پتا ہوتا یہ پہلا انڈین ہے جو سپریم کورٹ کے ٹریک پہ ہے. ہمیں نہیں پتا, وی ڈنٹ اون اے ڈیل اینڈ وی آر ٹو بلیم فار دیٹ.
I arguably have never seen the Pakistani American community or Pakistani diaspora as unified around or as vocal about anything, any issue as Imran Khan. But Wajahad A, was that and should it still be the rallying cry for Pakistanis here in the United States, or do you think that the diaspora's energy here in Washington and just in the US is better spent elsewhere?
Should we have fun?
Have fun, yes.
Let's have fun.
Bring it. This is supposed to be lively and energetic.
For the people who voted for Donald Trump, and I heard all the Pakistanis, if you vote for Donald Trump, he'll free Imran Khan. Where's Imran Khan right now? Jail. Too soon or not soon enough? They sold out with best intentions. American Muslims, American Pakistanis, American Latinos, American LGBTQ, American bache, American healthcare system, American economy, American education system for a pipe dream of getting Imran Khan out of jail based on an inshallah that they will have a transactional relationship with Trump. Trump realized, and what Kamala Harris and the Democrats messed up, is that this is a very important issue. Gaza is a very important issue. So Trump sends Richard Grenell, who is not very gay but gay, to meet Pakistanis in the swing states. Democrats didn't meet the Pakistanis, and he said, vote for us. We'll have a meeting with you, and oh, your number one issue is Imran Khan and also Gaza? Okay, we'll talk to you. Democrats made a mistake, and they said, shut up. Shut up about these issues, you vote for us or else. And a lot of Pakistanis, a lot of Muslims, a lot of Democrats said, you disrespect us, we'll choose or else. So I've traveled around the country, there's two, let me just be blunt. I'm a middle-aged uncle, I shop at Costco, I have nothing to lose anymore. Okay? Once you shop at Costco, you are not afraid of death. I've traveled around the country for the past year. The two top issues for Pakistanis who voted for Trump, I said, what are the two top issues? You would think the economy? No. Number one issue, not Imran Khan. Anyone want to guess the number one issue is? The transgender. Did you know the transgender? I'm like, hijras. I'm like, haan, transgender. Bahut bada issue hai. So I ask him, is your beta transgender? Nahin. Is your beti transgender? Nahin. Is your wife transgender? Nahin. Has a transgender ever done anything to you? Nahin. When was the last time you met a transgender? Mujhe nahi malum. Ye number one issue hai, transgender. So they voted for Trump. Number two issue, Trump will free Imran Khan. Where is Imran Khan? In jail. And so if Pakistanis, I know this is going to piss off a lot of people, that's okay. I'm here to piss off people for the right reasons. If Pakistanis marshaled all that energy, that talent, that money, the access we have in medicine, the access that we have in business, rallied around Adil Manji, we would have the first Muslim Pakistani American federal judge in the Third Circuit. We would not have had Donald Trump, perhaps, as president. And if we had actually come up with a smart policy to get Imran Khan out of jail, maybe we could have gotten him out, but we went on Josh. Vote for Trump, Imran Khan will be free. I'm telling you, I saw AI videos of Donald Trump doing puppy-shuppy with Imran Khan in a jail, and intelligent Pakistani uncles were like, wo tum video dekhe? AI, wo AI tha? Asli video ya nakli video hai? I'm like, that is an AI video. I don't know. I think Donald Trump visited Imran Khan in jail. So that's what happened. Did it work out for us? Let us learn from our mistakes. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I feel like this is a really good segue to bring our audience in, because you've gotten everyone real fired up, all three of you. We have mics going around, and I might come back in if I need to, of course. I want to make a quick announcement before we take our first question. If your question does not take the form of an actual question, I reserve the right to cut you off. You are welcome to spar with our panelists, but we don't want commentary. We want a real question, not a long statement. And so there's a mic that you're going to line up. Look, see. Right back. Oh, there. Okay, so Armughan, I think, is actually I already know him. But you can introduce yourself.
Sure.
Yeah, but there's one back there and one here, right? So there's two lines, one in the middle, one in the back right. I'm going to go with Armughan because he's already standing. Introduce yourself since I happen to know you, the rest of the people don't.
Thank you, Sabrina. Assalamu alaikum. Armughan Javed. I came to the US in 1998 on an H-1B visa. So my question is for Wajahat Ali, a fellow Trekkie. In Star Trek, we have a saying, resistance is not futile, right? This time around, somehow the resistance seems to be futile against the Trump administration. So what can we do to sort of keep the spark going? Obviously, we have Mamdani, who just won in New York, Ghazala Hashmi in Virginia. Well, what else we can do to keep the momentum going?
So I have 3 kids, 2 of them are here, and that means I cannot afford to be cynical. I have to be hopeful. I think cynicism is cheap and lazy, and it means you spend the rest of your life throwing booze from the cheap seats. Having hope is not just to be optimistic, hope is a verb, okay? And our faith commands being hopeful even in the most hopeless times. So let me flip that. I know things look really bad. Let me give you some examples of actually how the majority can inshallah win. They threw everything and a Bill Clinton against Mamdani. They threw Islamophobia against him, some of the worst Islamophobia I've seen in this country since 9/11. They mocked him for being an immigrant. They mocked him for eating with his hands. They mocked him for speaking Arabic. They mocked him for being Muslim. He leaned in. The last week before the election, he did an ad in Arabic. He went to Desi restaurants, ate with his hand. He said, I'm Desi, I'm Muslim, I'm an immigrant. He lifted everyone up. He beat Andrew Cuomo in the entire establishment by double digits, got the most people to come out since 1969, all right? Last week, they said, oh, I don't know, Trump and Republicans, they have everything. Blue tsunami, double-digit victory in New Jersey, Virginia, New York, and the reason, and this is important for us, the reason all these Democrats got double-digit victories, it wasn't because of the Goras. Look at the crosstabs. Only 45% of Goras voted for these Democrats. I keep telling these Goras, you keep chasing Chet, this Gora, this mythical Gora who exists in Ohio. Your base is us. Without us, you ain't going anywhere. Asians, Latinos, black people, brown people, we gave them the blue tsunami. Last month, 7 million people came out for the No Kings rally. So we have the numbers, we mobilize the numbers, we can defeat fascists here and abroad.
All right. I'm going to make sure each of our panelists get in, so I'm not going to have everyone answer every question in the middle over here, please.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amar Ali. I'm actually not Pakistani American, but Indian American.
You're so welcome here, bro.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So
Save space.
My question is regarding Indian and Pakistani relations, given that the two governments have seemingly no hope for any sort of meaningful dialogue. What could the diaspora of both the Indian community and Pakistani communities do to facilitate a better dialogue and perhaps pave a path forward for better relations? Thank you.
Wajahat K, this is right up your alley.
What a great question. Thank you. Well, firstly, welcome to this event. It was designed to be inclusive, and thank you for being here. I've been going to my first interactions with Indians or Indian Americans were around high school and college, and I felt like it was the best of times. Of course, it was also a very different country, but I feel like institution building from the Pakistani side and the Indian side on the diaspora, that gap needs to be fixed. There are human rights groups, especially on the Indian side here. There's a Hindus for Human Rights right here in America, which does fantastic work. They're the first ones to back up Mamdani. They're the first ones to support Muslims if there's a problem back in India. And they're very proudly Indian and very proudly Hindu. Not the RSS proud, but the other proud, the more progressive, the more Indian American proud. The very fact is that that group exists, doesn't get much traction, and unfortunately doesn't have a lot of counterparts on the Pakistani side as well. I think events like this, which encourage someone like you to ask someone like me that question, is the beginning of something. However, let's be honest, if you've gone to school with an Indian American here, you've gone to college with them, it's a very different dynamic versus what you're back home with them, versus what your media there is feeding them, versus also, frankly, at a time like this, when both polities are terribly charged. It's very different to be a Pakistani American or an Indian American versus being a Pakistani or an Indian. So, who is to blame for that larger cause? I'm not quite sure, but I think we can start by doing more of this, which is talk and communicate and be very, very honest. And frankly, celebrate each other. Mamdani is that example. He owned his Indianness, he owned his Muslimness, he owned his brownness, he owned his desiness. He combined people from all over Queens and all the boroughs. There was no कि मैं हिंदुस्तानी हूँ, मैं पाकिस्तानी हूँ, मैं नहीं हूँ, मैं अफ्रीकी हूँ. He was not embarrassed. I think we need to start with that. We need to be proud of who we are, effectively.
Do we have at the back right? I'll go back and forth. Are you in line for a question? Or? Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is
Can you
Faiza.
come closer to the mic, please? Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Faiza. मैं एक तो ये सवाल पूछना चाह रही थी कि the first answer that you gave, that we, not me, but most Pakistanis voted Trump. Not because it was pledged that he will free Imran Khan. We voted Trump because you kill our children in Gaza, come November we will reply. Even if it doesn't matter, because we were sleeping for the last 50, 60 years. We didn't know our vote counted. So we, अगर उसके साथ in addition Imran Khan free हो जाता है, so good. But we voted on one thing only. You kill our children in Gaza, we will reply. You kill our children in Sudan, we will reply.
So, and I think that actually, Akbar, want to bring you in for this because I heard from so many people that they are sick and tired of voting for the quote-unquote lesser of two evils. And, I mean, Wajahat was talking about Mamdani and Islamophobia. So much of that Islamophobia is coming from the Democrats, right? And so much of the money that was being spent to highlight his position on Israel was coming from Democrats who are actively trying to defeat pro-Palestinian candidates at every level of government. You've written an entire book about the Biden administration's handling of Gaza. They're out there now trying to rehabilitate themselves and their image. What has the Democratic Party learned, if anything, about where they lost these voters, and what reason have they given to the voters that they've lost to come around and support them again when, at least when I ask them these questions, it doesn't seem like they've meaningfully moved at all?
Plus, I want to add one thing. When we were voting, we knew Republicans will do exactly the same thing. But our point was we have to make a statement. You kill our children, we will reply. We will reply. We don't care whether it's a Democrat, whether it's a Republican, whether it's a transgender. You kill our children, we will reply.
Akbar, go ahead.
Absolutely. I think, I followed the Democratic, I was dealing with White House officials on a minute-by-minute basis as they were making that Gaza policy, then covering the DNC, covering the Harris campaign. Sabrina, you pointed to Islamophobia, and I think what Democrats did with that policy and the way they approached people asking questions about it was an even more insidious form of Islamophobia because it was cloaked in, we are the party of equality, dignity, and representation. We have a woman of color as our candidate. Also, shut up or you'll get a Muslim ban, right? I mean, which you said as the argument was shut up, and the flip side of it was a threat. You want Trump? He will treat you even worse. And I think Democrats really took from the election a message of this cannot stand, and you're seeing the party try to have that conversation, but it's a really uphill battle because there are really strong forces on the other side, on the kind of pro-Israel hardliner side, who are saying to Democrats, just run the same playbook. It's okay. Biden was a flawed candidate, Kamala was a flawed candidate. The relevance, the salience of Gaza, because the salience of Gaza, and I reported from Gaza, I was the first Pakistani in history to get an Israeli press credential, do reporting from Gaza, the West Bank, and Jerusalem, I'm so glad I was able to do that.
Sat down with Hamas leadership for an exclusive interview. That was massive.
Yes, and I sat down with the Hamas leadership in the middle of the war. But I think there was a real sense of this issue can be segmented off, and there was not an understanding that this is a universal issue, right? This looks like people's babies. This looks like you and me. This looks like this crowd. Democrats, I think, are getting closer to understanding that issue, but the degree of patronizing rhetoric coming out of the White House, I was called a liar by the White House baselessly, and I still have White House officials from my book who I've quoted, I've interviewed extensively about that thinking, and they've said, we knew we were wrong, we knew, for instance, that there was strong evidence of war crimes, strong evidence of ethnic cleansing, indications of genocide. These conversations were happening at Biden's level, and they said we're not going to deal with them. I don't think that playbook can work again for Democrats, and they'll have to learn that lesson in 2026.
I know I'm going to keep the questions going. I'll give you a quick response, Wajahat Ali, because you say you want to address that, and I think it was partly directed at you as well.
Multiple things can be true at the same time. The Biden administration is responsible for genocide. The Trump administration is responsible for genocide. Democrats ignored their base. The number one reason, according to the YouGov poll, why many Democrats did not vote was due to Gaza. That does not mean that Kamala Harris would have won, but that was the main reason. At the same time, because we were so animated, and should be, by a genocide, so many people decided not to vote. If you have family, I cannot tell you, if you're Lebanese and Palestinian, to vote for a person who's killing your family. Take it? At the same time, and I want to be very blunt here, I feel very strongly about this, I cannot justify, I can understand you not voting, I get it. But then to deliberately vote for Donald Trump, a man who will do so much more harm to Palestinians, Muslims, immigrants, poor people, workers, that to me is you allowing your jazbati rage to overtake strategy, to overtake long-term thinking, and what we did is we punched ourselves in the face. So anyone who said, oh, we're doing this to help Palestinians, look at the situation right now at home, look at it abroad. We made everything worse with the best of intentions.
All right, thank you. Let's keep the questions moving on this side over here now.
Hi, first of all, I want to say, Wajahat, congratulations in putting on this event. Especially the young people here, and congratulations to the student organizers for putting this up. Also for putting together such a well-dressed panel. Wajahat, somebody asked on the stage, look, what should we do now about building more influence and power here? And I think that one of the things we've got to think about is how long are we going to give our time and brain space to trying to solve the problems of back home versus focusing on the things that we can do here. And I think that this event is, in a way, an example of that, where you've got both things going on as well. Because I think both things are very important and perhaps deserve attention. But us Baba sitting over here trying to solve the problems of back home is something we've been trying to do for 70 years and it hasn't ever worked. So is there a point, or should our energies and our focus be better spent on things that we can solve for right here where we live, where our families live?
Excellent. Thank you. I think this was for me. Yeah? Okay, so that is the point. But there's also, let me reapproach this from Wajahat's point of view. He just critiqued us for, and us is the collective us, not the individual us. The collective us voted for Trump. Yeah? Now we've been voting one way for decades, jitna bhi thoda bahut vote hai, and we voted another way for Trump. Why? Let's be honest. A lot of the diaspora, a lot of the people in this room generally love Imran Khan. Now, because Imran Khan and Trump, this is literally how you deconstruct the Pakistani mindset for voting here. Because Imran Khan and Trump had a meeting, he wore his chappals, you know, the first lady had a photo op with him, had a great time in 2019. There was some sort of construct in the random Pakistani uncle and auntie's mind that yaar Trump Imran ko bacha lega. Imran 2 saal se band hai, Trump Imran ko bacha lega. क्योंकि इमरान ने बड़ी प्यारी खेड़ी पहनी थी और काली शलवार कमीज पहनी थी और अकबर से ज़्यादा प्यारा लग रहा था जब वो ट्रंप की बुड्ढी के साथ खड़ा हुआ था. This was the mindset. Now, organizations which are charged with by the community, charged with acumen, charged with intellect, charged with community leadership. I don't want to name them, but we all know what these political action committees are. I don't want to name them, but we know who these organizers are. Some of them are in this room. They're friends of mine, but they screwed up. Fine, I'll name them. PAC-PAC. PAC-PAC, the largest political action committee in this country for Pakistanis, actually endorsed, and when PAC-PAC endorses, everybody else votes for Trump, right? Because they're the leading light. Now, my question, 1 year into the Trump presidency almost, here we are. My question is, what were you thinking? But here's the thing. It was a very narrow vision because there's no institutes here, Adil Hussain. There's no institutes here which actually may help us grow. We've invested in political parties. We've invested in Shaukat Khanum hospitals. We've invested in Salab Zadgan. We've invested in schools in Toba Tek Singh and Orangi Town. Dil, the largest charity in New York City, perhaps the richest, which on an annual gala churns up more than $5 or $6 million for a school in Orangi Town. And I have my Dil friends and my finance bro friends and their big mouth here as well. So thank you. But they would rather build a school in Orangi Town where they're not going to go. Nobody in their family is going to go, but they would rather not invest, for example, in something like this. Okay? Because we've crossed the line we've confused the lines between charity and institution building. Right? Charity, zakat, great. Right? But institution building is something completely different. There is no major think tank in this country which has a proper, fully functional desk, or in the city for Pakistan. There is no dedicated Pakistan Studies Center, institute or initiative in this country. There are no Pakistanis in the administration in the White House. There's 8 Indian Americans. There are no Pakistanis in Congress. There's 7 or 8 of them in Indian Americans in Congress. Why? हमारे सर पे सींग लगे हुए हैं. हम भी हार्वर्ड जाते हैं. ये येल का बैठा हुआ है. Why are there no more journalists out there who are interviewing Hamas? Why are we not investing in the public service aspect? Because parochially, we are unexcited about building here because a lot of the money, the experience in this room thinks, Adil, like you, unlike you, thinks that जो उधर हो रहा है या जो इधर हो रहा है वो mutually exclusive है. नहीं, ये mutually exclusive नहीं है. आप मुसलमान भी हो सकते हैं, पाकिस्तानी अमेरिकन भी हो सकते हैं, लाहौरी भी हो सकते हैं. You can build here and build there. And I'm going to end on this. अगर आप लोगों को वाकई, if you really want to change things, then you have to understand an old brevet of mine. You have to understand if you want to change things in Pindi, in GHQ, with the regime over there, you got to start affecting Washington, D.C. here. The shortest flight between Pindi and the rest of the world starts from Washington, D.C. You don't invest in your own people here, you're going to lose. So invest here. Right here.
We have 10 minutes, so we're going to try and get as many questions. And now I'm going to have one person take each question and keep it to a minute or less so we can get through as many as we can. On the back right, please.
Hi, yes, this question is for Akbar. Thank you so much for your reporting on the Biden administration's horrible handling of the Gaza genocide. I think it kept many of us informed. As a mayor and a state legislator, I saw the state party and the local party, Democratic parties, approach these issues. And I'm wondering, from your connections and what you see, is there a shift? Do they see the Mamdani election and the other wave of changing? Are they going to change how the national Democrats deal with things? Or are they such true believers or so beholden to their donors that they're going to stick to the party line? Or do you see them trying to engage in this great forgetting that this genocide ever happened or what their role was? And I think that's why your book is so important, but I wanted to just get your perspective on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words about the book and my work. I think that talking to people about their reflections on this, it is still so easy to silo and segment a Mamdani, and there's a real desire to do that. There is a strong desire, and that's not just a desire that's psychological. It is backed by tremendous resources, donors, institutions, and frankly, laziness, right? What I found in reporting on the Biden administration, they were not sitting there every day thinking, how can we do genocide and kill more Palestinian babies? They were thinking, it's too hard to do something different. It's too hard. I can't get creative. I can't do this. Let me do what we've always done. That's easier. And that's what needs to be fought, is that assumption because what that's brought us to is, of course, a Trump presidency. I think where Democrats are seeing something interesting and different, and this links a little to what you were saying, the universality of what happens abroad is becoming clear. And I think the fact that Palestine is now not only a foreign policy issue, it's the basis of the Trump administration's crackdown on universities, the deportation of students, the arrests of journalists, prosecutions, persecution. People are finally seeing that, and I hope that that greater awareness will grow. And I hope it grows for Pakistanis too. I was thinking with what you were saying about why we as Pakistanis are not able to think maybe about political engagement. Let's also acknowledge what we're coming out of. You and I grew up in a society where, for the vast majority of our lives, there were dictators. There was not open politics. There was not open discussion. There was a lot of fear. There was so much fear. Add to that the post 9/11 fear among Muslims in this country. That's what we need to look at, reflect on, and move beyond.
Thank you. And again, I'm going to just rapid fire now so we can get as many of you on the back left.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dua Sikandar. I'm a graduate student from Hopkins. And my question is related to Afia Siddiqui. Why has Afia Siddiqui's case remained diplomatically stagnant for so long? And what leverage, if any, does Pakistan realistically have? And does the Pakistani diaspora is willing to stand up for difficult issues, or do we only advocate for comfortable causes?
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take a couple questions and we'll pick who answers which. And you, sir, in the back.
Yeah, my question is regarding very well mentioned by Wajahat Ali, who you are calling Wajahat uncle, that the crisp of his thought is that is very valid, that overseas Pakistanis in USA, we have almost 1 crore 10,000 overseas Pakistanis all over the world, but here they believe their main issue is release of Imran Khan, whether it works via Washington DC as he said or not. But I don't think it will work from overseas. Pakistanis will have to take the lead from Pakistan to get this resolved. And of course, what we are talking is what Wajahat Saeed Khan said, that Pakistan's main challenge is vacuum of leadership. And we all know who is creating this vacuum and why this vacuum is there, right? Yeah. Because we know the people in the assemblies and Form 47, everyone know. Yeah. So
is there,
that is
you
the
don't mind
real
just
challenge.
kind of succinctly summarizing your questions because we're running a little bit out of time.
Another thing is he mentioned about the nationalism of Mamdani. Very well said. He is proud to be Indian. He is proud to be Muslim. And same thing we saw with Imran Khan. His focus and all that. Independent of
is there a question, sir? Just
province.
Because we are really running out of time.
So my question is how the vacuum of leadership to Wajahat Khan can be resolved in Pakistan.
And
what is the solution?
Thank you. And then let's do one more here, and then we'll round robin these.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, how deeply do you think the Pakistani diaspora cares about the 27th Amendment? And do you really think that it ties with the fact that Asim Munir has basically sold every single fake promise that he could to Trump and somehow convinced him that without Asim Munir, Trump will not be able to use Pakistan to its political advantage, especially in the case of Gaza. So how do you link the two things together? And do you think there's any way to get back from there?
All right, and then one more from here, and then we will answer these in a
Thank you, everyone, for organizing this. This is very important. And Wajahat raised an important point that why there are no Pakistani in Washington, D.C. I would say if there would be Pakistani in Washington, D.C., they will be the touts of ISI, because I have been the victim of transnational repression in USA. I have been abducted by General Tahir Aslam because at the behest of his brother, yes, I am asking the question. And he showed me that my phone was at home, but he had complete access to my phone, including the Food Panda app. The Food Panda app is the Uber Eats of Pakistan. And he said the screw bits and the copper wire in my food were deliberately implanted. But when I moved to USA, still they have made sure that I know that they have still access to my all the apps.
The question?
Yes, my question. When you know that ISI and military generals have so much power, access to the CIA, FBI and the White House, how can they let an objective, impartial Pakistani
in Washington, D.C. White House.
And we're going to do one more, and then after, this will be a last, I'm going to have everyone then give a thought on whichever one they want to choose, and then these guys will be around for a little bit. You can find them afterwards, sir. Very enthusiastic. Go ahead. And please, just straight to the question if you can.
Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
yeah, sorry. So I just want to play on the point of optimism, right? And so maybe this is Wajahat Ali. So I totally see how the current bromance between Pakistan and the US is idiosyncratic, but in an optimistic sense, is there any way we can harness that to institutionalize it for the betterment of promotion of democracy within Pakistan or not?
Okay, great. I'm going to have you weigh in on that. You guys can take constitutional amendment, Afia Siddiqui. Oh, so you.
I want to talk about a bunch of stuff.
But you go first then. Since
All right, real quick, there's a through line through all the questions, which is a feeling of powerlessness against institutions, organizations, and people who no longer represent us. And the through line here is this: what do you do about Afia Siddiqui? How many people know about her? How come they don't know about her? How come you're not the ones actually making people care about her? In order to make people care about it, you have to give the message. Now, not only do you have to give the message, you have to be effective in delivering the message. Not only do you have to be effective in delivering the message, now you need a wide audience. So what have we done with our collective wealth? And I do want to mention this because I know people might seem very depressed. Pakistanis, mashallah, my father came here in 1966 as an 18-year-old at UC Berkeley with his brother, right? 18 years old. He said at that time, if you saw any Desi, you used to cross the street and exchange phone numbers because there are so few of them. Okay? He said we had to drive 2 states to buy halal meat. We didn't know what we were doing. We figured out how to become imams for Eid. Okay? That community, mashallah, has come this far to create this. So give that a round of applause.
Thank you.
The problem, well, let me finish. Give me 10 seconds, 30 seconds. The problem is we have invested so much so in medicine, engineering, and business. We have not translated that into policy, elected officials, judges, writers, and poets. When our kids say, Baba, mujhe ek writer banna hai, bole tum kya faltu idiot ho kya? Nahi, shadi kaun karega? And we have so many mediocre doctors who would have been first-class politicians and writers. So you have to create the institutions, and you have to force power to listen to you, which is what our Indian cousins have done by mobilizing and using the wealth they've made through motels and businesses and through education to get to power in DC.
We're going to treat this like a hard out as you guys go on TV. You guys go on TV all the time. So 1 minute, 1 minute. Let's go.
Sure. I wanted to quickly weigh in on the Afia Siddiqui case. I think that has to be seen in this broader spectrum of war on terror and a lack of reckoning in this country, right? So that's about how does U.S. counter-terror policy work? And again, that just demands engagement with these processes. The laws are on the books. The regulations are there. The people are there. It's a matter of applying them and knowing how to work that system. And whether it's Indians, whether it's pro-Israel hardliners, a lot of communities know how to do that. So Pakistanis have to begin getting in that process. I also wanted to quickly weigh in on the 27th Amendment question. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. I do just hope that people, of course the Trump moment is a conducive moment for this kind of power grab. I think there's a tendency to sometimes over-Americanize Pakistani domestic politics and the trend lines that have been happening over many years. And let's not overdo that.
Great.
I think that's bad now.
Thank you. Wajahat Khan, final word.
There is no final word. This is going to be ongoing. This is going to be communal. This is going to be communal. We will not stop talking. To the person who's wondering about where leadership in this country is, well, it's right here. It's right here. This is it. Those young leaders in the back who served you lunch, these young ladies and gents who organized this, these two Buddhas, the two W's, these two Naujwans, this is it. This is us. We are here. This is home. Now, you can either have your schizophrenic presence back home and zakatofy your way and to build a masjid or a tube well in Punjab because that's where your dada's from. Good job. Well done. Your dada's going to enjoy it wherever he is. But this is home now. And we need to understand that very clearly. About the 27th Amendment or the other questions, happy to take them. But overall, the crisis of this community resonant, frankly, in ہوا کیا ہے. یہ جو بچے ہیں انہوں نے دن رات لگا کے رات سے ایک بھی نہیں بچہ سویا سامنے آپ کے, انہوں نے دن رات لگا کے یہ کیا ہے. مگر here's the best part, ان کو ٹویٹر پہ آپ کے فیوریٹ جو سو کالڈ ویلاگرز ہیں کہہ رہے ہیں یہ ISI کروا رہی ہے. It's unbelievable when initiative, and that's where I am very envious of our Indian friends, because something like this in the heart of DC, in the best public policy school in the country, would have been commemorated by the diaspora, and yet hum ek dusre ki taang kheechte hain. Dekhein, I'm in the communication business. Communication ka matlab hai, it comes from the word community, and community mein do lafz hain, com and unity. ٹھیک ہے, جب تک یہ مسجدیں مندریں جو ہیں شیعہ سنی پنجابی پٹھان اینٹی اسٹیبلشمنٹ پرو اسٹیبلشمنٹ ہوتا رہے گا, knock yourself out. You are here in the heart of DC. You can affect change. This system, despite the flaws pointed out by my very, very skeptic friends, this system has a front door. If Asim Munir, to your 27th Amendment point, if the evil genius field marshal can hire lobbyists, guess what? So can you, right? If they can give lectures wherever and get meetings on crypto, guess what? So can you. Get organized behind people who are like you, not people who are unlike you. And by the way, the people back home now are, frankly, I hate to say it, unlike you.
Your organizers are having me wrap it up, so...
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Thank you so much, Wajahat Khan, Akbar Shahid Ahmed, Wajahat Ali. Thank you guys for all of your questions. These guys are, I think, here for a little bit, so find them, confront them nicely, if you will. I'm Sabrina Siddiqui. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. That was amazing. That was great.